Good evening, I'm the Game Tutor, and tonight we're going to be looking at my top 10 games of 2018. Now, as always, I want to preface this by saying that even though we're a site that reviews indie games and largely indie games on the Nintendo Switch, this list is my personal view of my favourite games that I have played this year. And in this, they can come from any platform, of any kind of budget, and I don't have any really rules apart from that. Now, I must be honest that I don't feel that 2018 was one of the strongest years in video games, and if many games on the list were thrown in with many games from the last few years, then many, if not most, would not appear. But without further ado, let's start with number 10, Super Daryl Deluxe. Now, I said in my original review of Super Daryl Deluxe earlier in the year that it was a quirky Metroidvania with RPG elements. Now, what I liked about this game was its really unusual setting and very sort of clean yet innovative gameplay. Fantastic art style, and it really was an interesting Metroidvania that gave me something that I hadn't really played before. In the mainstream press, I feel this game fell way under the radar, and if you've never played it, I strongly recommend you picking it up. Number 9, Yoku's Island Express. Now, I first saw the logo for Yoku's Island Express, I initially thought it was going to be a Yoshi's Island ripoff. In reality, Yoku's Island Express turned out to be one of my favourite little gems of 2018. Essentially again a Metroidvania, but based entirely around pinball. This was a game that spanned genres and is definitely worth a playthrough if it passed you by this year. Number 8, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, the first AAA game to make it into my list this year is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I've never been a massive Assassin's Creed fan over the years, and in fact the last game in the series that I played was Black Flag, way back at the turn of the console generations. What drew me to this year's effort from Ubisoft, however, was the setting and nod to Greek mythology, a subject that I've got a good deal of interest in. It's no secret that I generally prefer playing female protagonists in games, and Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of the most fleshed out, well written female characters I've played in video games in a really long time. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey is definitely worth playing if you haven't picked it up already. Number 7, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The original Tomb Raider reboot was my favourite game of the year back when it was released, and when I finished that game I was really excited about the next instalment. Therefore I was a little disappointed when Rise of the Tomb Raider did not quite hit the mark for me, mainly due to its very empty open world. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, however, is an excellent game and exactly what I wanted in a sequel. Sure, it's a bit silly and a fair chunk of the plot doesn't really make any sense, but for a stealth heavy action game it delivers, and it's not going to rate as highly on the list as the original did, but it is a good game nonetheless. Number 6, The Hex. From Daniel Mullins, creator of Pony Island, comes The Hex, a short murder mystery that parodies video games and all of the tropes that surround them. While not quite as groundbreaking as potentially Pony Island itself, or something like the Stanley Parable, this is a game that any long-term video game fan must play. It got such little fanfare when it was released this year that I actually found it impossible to find a good quality version of the game's logo. The Hex is, however, a must-play title that, while not outstanding on gameplay, truly from a sort of special experience, when looked at as a whole, it is an absolute must-buy. Number 5, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, I've never been a massive Smash Bros. Fan, but I did play the original quite a bit way back on the N64, and over the years I've dipped in and out. I was, however, really drawn into the latest Switch version, largely due to the massive cast of characters, the expanded set of modes, and generally there seems being a lot more on offer than from the underwhelming Wii U version. Smash Bros. Ultimate is an excellent game with plenty to do throughout, and with the prospect of new and exciting DLC characters to come, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate really has been an unexpected, if I'm honest, highlight of my year on the Switch. Number 4, God of War. God of War really raised the bar this year as far as cinematic action games go. I'd be lying if I said that I slightly missed the spectacle fighter roots, and I wish the game had been a little bit more traditional, although I might be quite alone in that viewpoint. The story was good, the cinematics were outstanding, and as a package we have probably the best AAA title of the year. Not quite the massive revelation that many review outlets call it, but it really is an excellent game nonetheless, that I really cannot recommend you play enough. Number 3. Yonder, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles. Now Yonder is a super unusual game. It's essentially an action-adventure game, not too dissimilar in sort of the way it is to Breath of the Wild, but it's got no combat and it's purely based on exploration. On the face of it, the game should not work, but in reality, Yonder, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles is one of the most relaxing, innovative and pleasant experiences I've had all year. Most games leave my mind pretty quickly after finishing them, but Yonder really has stuck with me, and I'm not completely sure, if I'm honest, why, but I think that my love of the game has increased as time has gone by. If you're a fan of any game that can be enjoyed without sort of violence and over-the-top action, then Yonder is definitely something worth checking out. Number 2. Moonlighter. Now, going into Moonlighter, I didn't really know what to expect, and what I got in the end was an innovative blend of action RPG and shop management sim. Moonlighter is a game with tight gameplay and an engrossive premise that really did take me by surprise this year. I cannot recommend the game enough for any two of the mixed up genres and for anyone looking for something that little bit different. It doesn't take too long, I'd really recommend you play through it, and it's an excellent game.
Let's protect this place.
Special mention, Ys 8, the Lacrimosa of Dana. Now, the choice whether to make Ys 8, the Lacrimosa of Dana my favourite game of 2018 was a difficult one. Not because I was unsure as to whether this was my favourite game I played in 2018, because it actually is, but the game was originally released on the Vita back in 2016 and again on the PS4 last year. It was, however, when it was released on Switch in July 2018, and this is when I picked it up and played it. Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana is an outstanding action RPG with a unique premise of the main character being shipwrecked on an uninhabited island, and most of the game taking place on that island as you try and rebuild your crew and ship. Throughout the game I became so really attached to the characters, and I was desperate to play just that little bit longer to see more of the story. I'm not generally a massive fan of side quests, but everything that was on offer in Ys 8 I played, and I don't regret it. Ys 8 is my favourite game that I played in 2018, but due to the dubiousness of whether it even counts on a Game of the Year list, as it was released originally in 2016 and 2017, and I only picked up a later re-release, I've decided to give it a special mention here that it so very well deserves, and then move on to my final game of the year. Number 1. Celeste. Now, before being released, Celeste did not appear on my radar, but now at the end of the year, Celeste truly was the breakout indie gem of 2018. On the face of it, Celeste is a pixel art, high difficulty action platformer, but in reality it is so much more than that. It takes the groundwork that was laid in indie games like Super Meat Boy and raises the bar higher than you would have thought possible. The platforming gameplay in Celeste is potentially the tightest and best quality platforming I've ever experienced in a video game. The difficulty curve is perfect, and never did I feel that a section of the game was too difficult, even after dying time and time again. The inclusion of assist mode is an excellent way of increasing accessibility for a more casual and younger audience, and I think this was also something that really showed me that there is a way of making these really difficult games more accessible. Now, this alone would be enough to secure a space on the list, but I also must mention the excellent storyline that deals so well with the subject of depression and the ongoing struggles of Madeline, the main character, as she goes through the game. If you had not played Celeste, I would highly recommend you picking it up immediately. It is definitely one of the best, if not the best, game of 2018.